Hello there, I'm Lance, and welcome to Dozing Off. Dozing Off is a podcast where I'm gonna read you to sleep. I'll narrate short stories and classic literature in this deep and relaxing tone to allow you to put your overactive mind at ease and doze off. I'm originally from the Midwest in the United States, but now I live in the Southeast, and I have not seen snow truly stick here in the Southeast since I've been here. But right now I am staring out my window, looking at about 4 to 6 inches that are falling. And there is just something so rhythmic and peaceful about watching snow fall. Apologies, intrusive thoughts as I stare out the window. That has absolutely nothing to do with tonight's story. But tonight's story is a good one. It's called The Man Who Slept Beneath the Breathing Earth. Thank you so much for being here tonight and truly making dozing off a part of your bedtime routine. Without further ado, here we go. The Man Who Slept Beneath the Breathing Earth. Chapter 1. The man slept beneath a bridge that hummed softly at night. It wasn't the sound of cars overhead that made the hum, at least not entirely. It was something deeper, something older. A vibration that traveled through stone and steel and soil, like the earth itself was breathing in long, patient cycles. Most people never noticed it, but this man did. He slept with his back against a concrete pillar, worn smooth by decades of passing seasons, his coat folded beneath his head, his boots placed neatly beside him. Curled against his chest was a dog. An old dog with a gray muzzle and ears that twitched even in dreams. The man's name once had been Elias. He didn't use it anymore. Names belong to a life before losing things. Before the slow unthreading of certainties. Before nights like this, where the sky felt closer than people ever had. The dog still knew his name. Eli, the dog would sigh, the sound more breath than bark, as if the world lived somewhere between the two. The dog's name was Moss. Elias had found him, or maybe Moss had found Elias, 3 winters ago behind a closed-down hardware store. Moss had been limping then, his fur matted, one eye clouded from an old injury. Elias had shared a half sandwich and all of his silence. Moss had followed him ever since. They were, in a way, already a story. Tonight, the air was different. Elias noticed it first because Moss lifted his head and stared into the dark beneath the bridge, ears forward, tail still. Not alarmed, curious. "Easy," Elias whispered, his voice low and calm. "It's just the river." But Moss didn't look toward the water. He looked inland, where weeds grew through the broken concrete and the city lights thinned into shadows. The hum beneath deepened. Elias felt it in his ribs. Then, impossibly, the ground sighed. Not collapsed, not cracked. Sighed. A long, patient exhale. The weeds rustled though there was no wind. The smell of damp earth grew richer, warmer. Elias sat up slowly, his joints protesting, his breath catching somewhere between disbelief and fatigue. From the shadows stepped a woman, or something like one. She wore no shoes. Her feet were bare, dusted with soil, small roots winding briefly around her ankles before loosening again. Her hair fell down her back like a rain-darkened bark. Leaves clung to her coat, though the coat itself seemed woven from fog and moonlight. It was weird, though. She didn't startle Moss. That, more than anything, told Elias he wasn't dreaming. "Good evening, Elias," she said gently. He hadn't heard his name spoken in years. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. She crouched instead, lowering herself to Moss's level. Moss stood, tail wagging once, slow and respectful. The woman placed her palm against his forehead, and the dog sighed, eyes fluttering closed. "He remembers the paths," she said, "even if you've forgotten them." Elias swallowed. "Who are you?" She smiled, not unkindly. "I am what listens when you speak to the ground," she said. "What watches you when you sit very still. Some call me Mother Nature. Some call me nothing at all." Elias laughed then, a short, cracked sound. "Right," he said. "Figures." She didn't argue. Instead, she stood and extended her hand, not toward him, but toward the land beyond the bridge. "Walk with me," she said. "You're tired in a way, sleep when I fix." Moss was already moving. Elias hesitated only for a moment before pulling on his boots and following. Chapter 2. The city did not vanish. It softened. Street lights dimmed into lanterns. Pavement grew hairline cracks that filled with moss and tiny blue flowers. The air smelled less like exhaust and more like rain-soaked bark. Elias walked slowly, Moss trotting beside him, tail swaying like a metronome. The woman, Nature, moved without sound, her feet barely touching the ground. They passed places Elias knew. A bus stop where he'd once spent 3 days avoiding a storm. A closed cafe whose dumpsters had fed him for weeks. An alley where he'd carved Moss's name into brick with a borrowed knife. But these places were gentler now, less sharp. "You are not taking us away," Elias said quietly. "No," she replied, "only deeper." The ground beneath them changed from concrete to packed dirt without Elias noticing when it happened. Trees rose among them, old ones, thick and steady. The city sounds faded until there was only a hush of leaves and the soft percussion of insects tuning themselves for night. They came to a path. It glowed faintly, as if remembering where it had once been walked. I don't belong in places like this, Elias said. I never did. Mother Nature stopped and looked at him fully in that moment. You were born belonging, she said. The forgetting came later. Moss nudged Elias's hand. Elias let his fingers sink into the dog's fur, grounding himself in the familiar warmth. They stepped onto the path. Chapter 3. The first place the path led was a meadow under a sky crowded with stars. Not the washed-out stars Elias knew from the city. These were bright and close, sharp as memories. The glass shimmered faintly, silvered by moonlight. Fireflies drifted like slow thoughts. In the center of the meadow stood a small cabin. It looked lived in. Smoke curled from its chimney. A lantern glowed in the window. The door creaked open before they reached it. Inside, the cabin smelled of cedar and old books. A kettle simmered over a hearth. On a table lay photographs. Elias stopped short. They were his photographs. Him, younger, laughing beside a river. Him holding a woman's hand, her hair dark, her smile unguarded. Him kneeling beside a puppy with one cloudy eye. His throat tightened. I don't want this, he said. Mother Nature lifted one of the photographs and set it gently back down. This place does not ask you to want, she said, only to witness. The woman from the photograph stepped out from the shadows. Not as she had died, as she had lived. Elle, she said softly. Elias's knees gave way. He sank to the floor, breath ragged, hand shaking. Moss pressed against his side, steady and present. I tried, Elias whispered. I didn't know how to stop losing things. She knelt before him, not touching, not retreating. You didn't lose me, she said. You carried me as long as you could. The cabin hummed, warm and quiet. When Elias looked up again, the woman was gone. The photographs faded into blank frames. The kettle went cold. Mother Nature stood in the doorway. Come, she said gently. This was not a place to stay. Chapter 4. The second place was a forest that breathed. Each tree inhaled and exhaled, bark expanding and contracting imperceptibly. The sound was like distant waves. The ground was soft with pine needles. Moss sniffed eagerly, tail wagging faster now. In the center of the forest lay a pool of water so still it reflected not the trees, but the sky as it had centuries ago, thick with unfamiliar constellations. "Drink," Mother Nature said. Elias knelt. His reflection looked lighter, less warm. He cupped the water in his hands and drank. Warmth spread through him, not heat, but relief. Like unclenching a fist you'd forgotten was tight. Images surfaced. Elias remembered building a table with his father, remembered quitting his job because his wife was sick, remembered choosing love over security, and then blaming himself when love didn't save her. "You did not fail," Mother Nature said, as if hearing his thoughts. "You chose to stay." Moss drank too, then lay down, rolling onto his back with a contented groan. Elias laughed quietly. The sound surprised him. The forest breathed on. Chapter 5. They walked for what felt like both hours and moments. They crossed a bridge made of roots woven together like muscle and bone. Beneath it flowed a river of light, memories, maybe, or time itself. They climbed a hill where stones whispered name of those who had passed them before. They rested beneath a tree whose leaves fell upward into the sky. At each place, Elias felt something loosen. Not erase, loosen. Mother Nature spoke little. She didn't need to. Mother Nature spoke little. She didn't need to. The land did most of the talking. Finally, they reached a clearing where the ground dipped gently inward, forming a bowl cradled by ancient oaks. At its center was a bed of grass so soft it looked unreal. "This is as far as I go," Mother Nature said. Elias nodded. He understood without knowing how. "So, what happens now?" he asked. She smiled, brushing her fingers across Moss's head. "You rest," she said, "and you remember how to wake." She stepped backward. The clearing dimmed. The hum returned. Chapter 6. Elias woke beneath the bridge. Morning light filtered in from the river's edge. Traffic roared above him. His coat was folded beneath his head. Moss lay curled against his chest, snoring softly. For a moment, Elias felt the old panic. Had it all been a dream? Then he noticed the grass. There was a small patch of it growing where concrete should have been, green and soft, brushing against his head. Moss stretched and looked up at him, tail thumping once, Hey, Elias said, voice thick. You remember it too, don't you? Moss wagged his tail again. Elias sat up. The world looked tolerable. Not fixed, not perfect, but breathable. He stood, adjusted his coat, and stepped out from beneath the bridge. The city didn't feel like an enemy anymore, just another landscape. As they walked, Elias felt the ground beneath him, solid, alive. Somewhere deep below, the earth breathed. And for the first time in a long while, Elias breathed with it. What a great story. I feel like ever since I got my puppy, well, he's 1 now, still acts like a puppy, but ever since I got him, whenever there's a story that involves a dog, I just feel like I'm so invested. I just can't wait to see where it goes. Because dogs really do teach us so much about the world, about ourselves. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that story too. Thank you for being here, and sleep well.